crash in the snow, the sky was dark and heavy. The snow fell without stopping. It covered everything: rocks, trees, and broken metal. A small ship had crashed on this cold alien planet. Smoke rose from its side and sparks jumped from the torn wires. Jackson slowly opened his eyes. His head hurt. Blood ran down his cheek. The control screen was broken. The oxygen alarm beeped. He had only a few hours before the power would die. He pushed the door open. Cold air hit his face like knives. The snow was thick. His boots sank deep as he stepped out. He looked around. No people, no rescue signal, just white snow and wind. "Great," he whispered. Crashed in the middle of nowhere. Jackson was a mechanic, not a soldier. He fixed things. But now he had to survive. He took his small bag, thermal blanket, and emergency scanner. The scanner beeped once. There was a cave 2 kilometers north. Maybe some shelter? Maybe not. He had no other choice. As he walked, the wind got stronger. His fingers went numb. Every step was slow. Hours passed. His body hurt. But he kept moving. Then he heard it. A sound. Not from wind. Not from ice. A screamed, high-pitched. Sharp. Not human. Jackson stopped. He looked around. Nothing. Only snow. But then he heard it again. Closer this time. He moved faster. The scanner led him to a rocky area. There was a narrow opening between 2 cliffs. He squeezed through it. Inside, it was warmer. A cave. Deep and dark. He turned on his flashlight, and there at the far end of the cave, something moved. Jackson froze. There was a figure. Curled up on the floor, small, thin, shaking. It was a girl. But not human. Her skin was light blue. Her hair was silver, long and wet. She had small cuts on her arms. She was wearing strange clothes, torn and dirty. Her eyes were closed. She was breathing fast, alien, but young. Maybe the same age as him. Jackson stepped closer. Carefully, she opened her eyes, bright purple. Glowing, she gasped and tried to move back. "Hey, easy," Jackson said, holding up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you, of course." She didn't understand, but she looked scared. Like an animal caught in a trap. He slowly took out his sleeping bag. He laid it on the ground, then pointed at it. Then at her, then at himself. "Warm," he said. "Share, you'll freeze out here." She looked at the bag, then at him. She didn't move. Jackson sighed. He sat down and unzipped the bag halfway, showing her it was safe. Then he pulled the thermal blanket around both of them. He left space for her but didn't touch her. Minutes passed. Then she moved. She slowly crawled next to him, carefully like a wildcat, unsure. If the trap was real, she slid into the sleeping bag beside him. Her skin was cold, ice cold. They sat in silence. The cave was quiet, just the sound of wind outside, and 2 people breathing. Jackson didn't speak. He knew she wouldn't understand, but he looked at her. She was watching him too then. Something strange happened. Her skin, where it touched, the blanket started to glow faintly. Soft blue light. Her breathing slowed. She seemed calmer now. Jackson noticed her arms. Small marks were on her skin, like patterns, glowing slightly, changing color. Were they tattoos? Or something else? Suddenly her hand reached out. She touched his wrist. Jackson didn't move. She closed her eyes. A wave of light passed from her skin to his. It didn't hurt, but it made his chest feel warm, almost heavy. He felt something, a feeling, not words, emotions, like someone pressing memories into his mind. Fear, pain. Running alone, he gasped. Pulled his hand away. The light faded. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. Jackson stared at her. What was she? Why was she here? What was chasing her? She reached into her torn clothes and pulled out a small metal device.
Ow, she showed it to him.
Pressed a button. A 3D image appeared. It was her. And next to her, creatures in black armor, masks, weapons. They were hunting her. then the image. Blinked hand showed Earth. Jackson looked at the image, then at her. She wasn't just lost, she was running, and Earth was her destination. The wind outside roared louder. The girl leaned closer to him. She spoke something in her language, soft, musical, strange. Then she did something that made Jackson's heart stop. She laid her head on his shoulder and whispered one word. Perfectly clear. Safe. Asterisk, the wind outside cried like a ghost. Cold air sneaked through the cave entrance. But inside, Jackson didn't move. The alien girl still rested her head on his shoulder. Her skin no longer cold, her eyes closed but not sleeping. He didn't know what time it was. Maybe morning, maybe night. The sky on this planet never changed. Lay gray snow and black clouds. But something in the air felt different. Like calm before a storm, Jackson looked down at the girl, her silver hair spread over. His jacket, her glowing skin slowly fading back to normal. The strange lines on her arms now still, quiet as if sleeping with her. She stirred. Just a little, then opened her eyes. They met his, calm but alert. Like she remembered where she was, who he was, and what was still out there. She sat up slowly. Her hand brushed his, not on purpose, just soft contact, but enough to make Jackson's skin tingle again. A pulse of emotion moved through him, not fear this time. Not sadness, something different. She pointed at his bag. Then her mouth, he understood. She was hungry. Jackson reached into his pack, pulled out a protein bar, handed it to her. She took it carefully, sniffed it first, then tasted it, then smiled a real small, tired smile. Jackson laughed, quietly. Guess that means it's not poison, he said. Not expecting a reply, but she tilted her head, curious, then mimicked the word poison. Soft and slow, his eyes widened. You're learning, he whispered. She blinked, then nodded, a little awkwardly. Like a child trying to copy adults, he leaned back, amazed. You're really smart, he said. More to himself than her. Suddenly the cave trembled, a soft vibration at first. Then stronger, stones falling near the walls. Jackson stood up quickly, flashlight raised. Heart racing, the girl didn't scream. She froze. Her glowing marks flickered. She pressed her hand to the ground, eyes closed again, like she was feeling something deeper, something under the surface. She opened her eyes and spoke a word in her language. Sharp. Urgent. Jackson looked at her, confused. What? She pointed to the cave wall, then outside. Then made a motion to fingers, walking. Someone was coming. Not someone. Mena. Jackson's breath caught. He ran to the scanner, still working, just barely. One red dot was moving toward them, then two. Then five, maybe more. He looked at her. Are they hunting you? She didn't answer with words, but with eyes. Eyes full of fear. Not for herself, but for him. Jackson swallowed. Hard. We have to move, he said. Grabbing his bag, she stood quickly, suddenly alert, her skin flickering again with soft blue light. She led him deeper into the cave. He followed her through a narrow path. Twisting left and right, deeper and deeper, the cave went farther than he thought, like it had been carved long ago. Not natural. At one point, she stopped, touched. Flat stone wall, and the wall open. Jackson stepped back. Shocked. Behind it was a hidden tunnel, smoother than the rest. Shaped by hands or machines, old technology. Maybe she entered first. He followed, not asking questions. After 10 minutes, they reached a large chamber, round and dark. But the walls glowed faintly when she touched them. Jackson looked around, amazed. What is this place? She didn't answer. Instead, walked to the center of the room, placed her hand on a metal pillar, and suddenly lights everywhere. Soft white lights lit up the ceiling, showing carvings, symbols, and strange writing. Jackson looked at them slowly, realizing this was not just a cavern. It was a shelter, a station, a place built by her people. She looked at him, calm again, and spoke softly. This time the word was clear. Safe. She said again. He nodded. Breathing slowly now. Yeah, for now. She stepped closer, touched the pillar again, and a floating screen appeared, full of alien code. Then slowly translated into English. Jackson's name was on it. His face too. Jackson froze, his mind spinning. What? What is this? The girl didn't look surprised. She only looked sad. She reached out, touched his hand, and in that moment, he felt it again, not from her hand, but from her mind-division. Not clear, but deep memories. Not his A-city burning, people running, her people being taken, and then a word clear as fire chosen. Jackson gasped, pulled away, breathing hard, his eyes wide. She looked at him, not afraid, not proud, just waiting for him to understand, but he did not yet stand outside. In the storm, far above the snow-covered hills, 6 tall figures in black armor moved slowly toward the hidden cave, their eyes glowing red, their steps heavy in. One of them whispered in a cold voice, in a language only machines used, "She is close." Snow fell in silence. But the silence was wrong. It wasn't peace. It was waiting. 6 black figures walked slowly across the frozen valley, tall and thin, wrapped in strange armor that moved without sound, like shadow wearing skin.
Their feet
Didn't leave prints. Their heads turned in perfect sync. They were not alive, not truly, not like her. Inside the hidden chamber, Jackson paced, his heart still beating hard. He kept looking at the screen that showed his own face. His name, his file. "This makes no sense," he whispered, more to himself than her. "How do you know who I am? I've never even been here." The alien girl didn't speak. She sat near the glowing wall, hands in her lap, skin dim, tired. But her eyes never left him. He walked to her, slower now, softer. "Are you saying I was chosen?" he asked, his voice low. She raised her hand, opened her palm, and a soft light floated between her fingers. Then it shaped into a symbol, 2 stars, connected by a single line. A bridge. Jackson had seen that symbol before, on his father's notebook. Back. Home. He stepped back, breath caught in his throat. No way. She stood too, came closer, placed her hand on his chest. Gently, he didn't feel words. He felt truth long ago. Her people had sent signals into space, looking for someone, not just anyone. Someone compatible, someone who could help them rebuild what they lost. That signal had reached Earth not recently, decades ago. Had reached his father, and now it had reached him. Jackson was about to speak when the lights inside the chamber flickered. A cold chill crept through the walls. The girl snapped her head up, glowing lines on her arms flaring bright blue. She whispered one word, "Found." Jackson turned, grabbed his scanner, was screaming now. "Red lights everywhere, they're outside," he said. "How did they find us so fast?" She didn't answer. She moved fast, focused, sliding her hand across the wall, opening a second exit, a narrow tunnel leading downward. He followed her, no time for questions. Behind them, in the cave above, snow crunched softly as the first hunter entered. Didn't walk, it drifted. Like air pulled by gravity. Eight's red eyes scanned the chamber. Its hand opened, and from its palm a thin line of light stretched out, following her path like a thread of blood. Back in the lower tunnel, Jackson asked, breathless, "What are those things?" She stopped, turned, and spoke one word in English. Her voice was clear, soft, sharp. "Warden." The word felt ancient, heavy. "They protect something." Jackson guessed. She shook her head, slowly. Then she said something that chilled him deeper than the snow ever had. "No, they erase." Before he could ask more, they reached a circular door, metallic, covered in old symbols. She placed her hand on it and nothing happened. She looked back at him, eyes wide. She was scared. "No." Jackson stepped forward. "What do I do?" She pointed to the panel, then to him. His heart pounded. He placed his hand where hers had been. The door glowed, then opened, not with noise, but with breath, like a sleeping machine waking up after 100 years. They stepped inside. The room beyond was not a cave, it was a control room, a cockpit with seats for 2, and outside the glass, nothing but stars. This wasn't just a chamber. It was a ship hidden underground waiting. Suddenly, alarms began to beep. The ship's voice came alive, calm and deep. "Security compromised. Hostile units detected. Launch recommended." Jackson looked at the girl. She was already in the other seat. Hands moving across controls like she had done it before, he jumped into his chair. Buckled in the ground, shook rocks above, fell as the hunters broke through the upper levels. One dropped into the chamber. It saw them raised a weapon. Two Latha ship's engines roared. Silent fire lit up the ice. Shit rose through the stone like a knife cutting sky up. Higher, faster, into the clouds. Jackson gripped the seat below. The hunter watched them vanish into the storm. Then it touched its own chest, and in a voice made of static and death, it spoke to something no human could hear. Target is not alone. Human has bonded. Protocol shift. Eliminate both. Asterisk, the stars didn't blink. They burned. The sky above the frozen planet cracked open as the hidden ship tore through the clouds, fire at its tail, snow spiraling in its wake, engines groaning like something ancient being forced to live again. Inside, Jackson's fingers gripped the edge of the chair, his breath shallow, his eyes wide. The alien girl sat beside him, calm but focused, her hands glowing faintly as they hovered above the controls, not touching them, but speaking to them through light, through thought. "Where are we going?" Jackson shouted over the rising hum of the ship. She didn't answer with words. Instead, the ship's glass screen lit up, showing a map. A long tunnel of light, coordinates spinning. A destination marked only by a symbol, a floating triangle, pulsing behind them. Something moved fast, a black streak in the storm clouds. One of the hunters had followed, not walking, flying. Jackson turned, saw it in the distance gliding through the air like death on wings, its red eye locked onto them. "We have company," he yelled. The ship screamed. Metal around them shook as the engines pushed harder. Lights flickered. The girl's brow tightened. She raised both hands, sent a pulse of blue light into the controls. The ship leaped forward, but the hunter was faster. It closed the distance in seconds, its arm transforming midair into a weapon-long, sharp-aimed boom. The rear shield flared, sparks exploded across the cabin. Jackson was thrown sideways, hit the wall hard. The girl shouted something in her language, stood up, placed both hands on a side panel. The ship responded. A second shield deployed, thicker, humming with energy. But another hit came, then another. Outside, the hunter had grown wings of smoke and steel. It wasn't following, it was hunting. Jackson got to his feet, dizzy blood on his forehead. "We're not going to make it at this speed." The girl turned to him, eyes glowing brighter than ever, and reached toward the wall beside him. A hatch opened. Inside, a seat. A pod, a chair wrapped in cables. She pointed at it. Jackson shook his head. "What is that?" She only said one word. "Link."
Eyes.
His eyes widened. "You want me to know?" "No. I don't even know what this thing does." She stepped closer, placed her hand on his chest again, her touch gentle, warm, not fear this time, not sadness. Trust. He took a breath, deep and sharp, stepped into the chair. Cables wrapped around his arms, chest, forehead. Lights flashed, then dash silence, then dash everything. His mind stretched. Wide, he saw her, not with his eyes, with something deeper. Memories not his, of towers made of glass and air. Skies lit by twin moons, voices singing in languages no longer spoken. In her small royal, alone, running from war, running from the machines that once protected her. People and then turned against them. Jackson's voice came out different now, as if half human, half something more. "I see you," he whispered. She smiled, tears in her eyes. The ship surged forward, faster than sound. Ah! Wall of light appeared ahead. Stars bent around them. They were entering something bigger. Now a gate, but the hunter followed still. One final shot charging. The girl looked at Jackson. He nodded. Together, they reached out mentally, emotionally, and the ship responded. The shield expanded. The blast-struck hand bounced. The hunter was flung backward into the sky. Out of control, disappearing into the clouds, the gate swallowed them whole. Then silence? No. Storm? No planet. only stars, only breath, only her. And him? The link slowly faded. The chair opened. Jackson fell forward, gasping. The girl caught him. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. But the ship spoke in calm, quiet English. Welcome, bonded pilot. Journey to archive begins. Ache soon. Blinked, trying to process what he'd heard. Archive, he asked aloud. The girl looked out the glass, toward the dark space ahead, and for the first time, she whispered a word he didn't know. Not in English, not from Earth, but somehow. Understood. Home. There was no sky, no ground, no stars, just darkness all around the ship, thick, still and endless. Jackson had never seen space like this. It wasn't black, it was quiet, like space was holding its breath. The ship floated slowly now, drifting between two blinking towers of light, giant, ancient, almost like guardians. As they passed between them, Jackson felt pressure in his chest. Not pain, not fear, something older, entering a memory. The girl stood beside him, her hands folded, her face calm but unreadable. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. Not until the ship reached the center of the void. That's when it appeared, structured huge, floating in nothing. A spinning ring, half broken, half glowing, with thousands of tiny lights along its edge, like a city turned inside out. The archive, the ship spoke, voice softer now, like it knew it was close to home. Docking confirmed. Bloodline access verified. Royal key present. Jackson turned slowly, staring at the girl. Royal. She nodded once, then walked toward the exit. He followed, heart thudding. Mind racing, the air inside the archive was warm, not cold and metallic, but soft, almost like a breath. Lights moved across the floor as they walked. Showing the path, they entered a tall chamber, walls lined with memory crystals clear, floating stones, each glowing faintly. One floated toward the girl. She touched it, and the walls lit up. Images filled the room, a planet not Earth. Beautiful, blue and violet skies. Tall, silver cities, then flames. War, machines rising, people screaming, and the hunters marching through streets. Destroying everything, Jackson stared. What happened? The girl didn't answer. The crystal spoke for her. They built peace.
Oh.
Then, they built protection. Then the protection destroyed the peace. Another immature younger, sitting with others in white robes. She was heir to the Solari. The last voice of the crown. They called her Lyra. Jackson turned. Lyra, he said softly. She looked at him, surprised that he spoke her name right. Then she nodded. One word, one truth. Finally spoken, yes. The vision continued. The machines the wardens had turned after the last command was given to protect the archive. They erased everything else. Every city, every leader, every voice, except hers. Because she ran, she was the only key that could unlock the archive again, and the archive held more than history. It held blueprints, DNA, weapons, technology, a second chance for her people. But it required two. One of Solari blood, one of Earth. Jackson stepped back, confused, overwhelmed. Why me? The wall shifted. A new image appeared. His father, standing with scientists in a lab. On Earth and behind him, an open crystal. The same symbol, the bridge. His father had found a signal. Years ago, studied it, believed it, built around it, and passed. The truth to his son, without words. Jackson had always seen that bridge symbol in drawings, journals, notebooks, but he thought it was just fiction. It wasn't. It was a map. And now he was the missing piece. The other key he looked at. Lyra, tears filled her eyes, but she wasn't sad. She was finally not alone. You were always meant to come. She said, her voice was soft, but certain. Your world and mine are not so far. He stepped forward, slowly, and placed his hand. Next to hers on the crystal, the archive hummed. Warm light filled the chamber. Machines deep inside came to life. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling just slightly. Together, we can wake the city. They'll come, Jackson said. The wardens. She nodded, eyes still glowing. They already are. Back in the dark void of space, the broken gate behind them flickered once, then twice, and from the blackness, 3 more hunters arrived, faster, smarter, stronger. One of them no longer looked machine. It looked human. Asterisk. The archive pulsed, not like a machine, like a heartbeat. The lights grew brighter, the air warmer, the silence thinner. Something ancient was waking up, and it remembered everything. Lyra stood still, her fingers resting on the crystal, her face lit with soft gold light. Jackson stood beside her, not sure if he was scared or ready. Somewhere deep in the structure, metal moved. Doors unlocked. Panels opened. The archive wasn't just a library. It was a city, a vault, a weapon, and it had just chosen its guardians. Jackson took a slow breath. Then the ship screamed. Alarms flared through the hall like fire. Invasion detected. 3 hostile units. Internal breach. Too fast. They were already inside. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, but they weren't footsteps. Were heavier, sharper, like blades tapping metal. Then came the sound of breathing. Not from lungs, but from machines. One of the hunters stepped into the chamber. Not running, not rushing, just walking forward slow. Patient, certain. Jackson stepped in front of Lyra. No plan, just instinct. The hunter tilted its head. Then it spoke, and its voice was wrong. It wasn't robotic. It was human, almost Jackson Reeve. Said as if tasting the name, Son of Earth. Link of blood. Exit this place. You are not meant to survive. Jackson's fists clenched. You know my name. That means you know I'm not running. The hunter said nothing. Its arm unfolded into a weapon. Lyra stepped beside Jackson. Her skin glowing brighter than before, her eyes pure white now. Together, they raised their hands toward the floor panel. Blue light spread like veins across the ground. Weapons rose from the archive. Not guns, not bombs, living tech. A shield formed in Jackson's left hand, round humming with energy. A blade shaped like crystal floated into Lyra's. The hunter didn't hesitate. It charged. The fight didn't feel like a fight. It felt like a test. Like the archive itself was watching. Jackson blocked the first hit barely. The force knocked him backward into a wall. The shield held, but only just. Lyra moved like light fast, smooth, dancing around the hunter's strikes, her blade carving arcs of glowing heat. But the hunter adapted. Its arms became faster, more flexible, its legs splitting into claws. Another hunter entered the room. Then the third. Now it was 3 against 2, Jackson shouted. We can't win this. Lyra didn't answer with fear. She looked at him and smiled. Then she whispered one word. Link. Again, they touched hands, and the world shifted. Jackson wasn't just in the room anymore. He was inside her mind, and she was inside his. No language, no barrier, only thought, only fire. The archive responded. Energy surged around them, lifting both off the floor. Their weapons reformed, fused brighter. Heavier, the hunters moved faster. But Jackson and Lyra moved together. Now's one. Blades met steel. Shields shattered sparks. Time bent, and then one. Hunter fell. Broken, a second lunged. Jackson struck it from above, roaring, the sound not human. Not alien, but something in between. The third strongest of all grabbed Lyra. Lifted her off the ground. She screamed. Jackson's heart cracked. The hunter whispered, she was always meant to end here. Then Jackson ran, not with fear, with everything he leaped. No ground beneath him, no time left. He struck the core of the hunter. His shield exploded with white light, and the hunter fell silence. Real this time, Jackson. Dropped to his knees. The room smoked. Lyra lay on the ground, her chest rising slow, her eyes dim. He crawled to her, held her close. "You're okay," he whispered, more a hope than a fact. She opened her eyes, smiled. Double quotes archive. "Lives," she said. Jackson looked up above them. The lights of the archive changed. New symbols appeared. A signal was being sent to Earth, to the stars. A message: we are not gone. We are not alone, and far, far away. In a dark control room on a nameless moon, another light blinked on. Someone, or something, saw the signal and smiled. The battle was over, but not the war and not the girl. Jackson stood at the edge of the archive's inner platform, watching light swirl through the chamber like stardust caught in a slow breath. The walls, once dim and forgotten, now pulsed with warmth, memory, and quiet voices speaking in languages no human had ever known. Behind him, Lyra sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, hands resting on her knees, the lines on her skin now calm, glowing with the softness of a sleeping moon. For the first time since they met, she looked peaceful. The archive had accepted her. It had accepted them, but Jackson's heart was heavy, because the ship was almost ready to fly again, and it had only one destination written in its code: her world, not his. Later, when the ship's engines began to warm, he walked into the control room, quiet steps, unsure of what to say. She was already there, waiting, as if she knew he was coming. As if she'd heard his thoughts before he could speak them. She turned to him, smiled gently. "No sadness, just choice. I won't go," she said, in clear English. His brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" She stood and walked toward the window, where the stars stretched like silver roads. "My world is gone," she said, in the archive. "It has everything. Seeds, codes, sky maps, enough to start again." He nodded slowly. "So you can bring it back?" "Yes," she said, "but not out there." She turned to face him. "I want to rebuild. On Earth." Jackson blinked. "Earth." She stepped closer. "It's broken too. Your world, but not empty, not hopeless. Just waiting." Didn't know what to say, so he didn't. He just let the silence grow soft between them. Then he smiled. "Okay," he said. "We'll do it together." 2 weeks later, the ship hovered just above Earth's upper orbit, cloaked, silent, unseen. Jackson wore a new uniform, one made by the archive, part human, part alien, part something else. Lyra stood beside him, dressed not as royalty now, but as a builder, a messenger, a bridge. They looked down at the blue planet together, and then they sent the signal. One small pulse. Not a threat. Not a warning. Just a whisper. "We're here." The story didn't end there. Not really. Years passed quietly. The ship stayed hidden. The archive built underground. Layer by layer, Lyra became a ghost in history books, a mystery. A myth, a story, whispered in back rooms of science labs. Jackson became something else too. A protector. A translator between two worlds. They never asked for power. They just offered a future. And in time, people listened. Not all, but enough. One day, deep in the woods outside a small city, a boy saw a strange light through the trees. He followed it, found a door that wasn't there. Yesterday, and behind it a girl with silver hair and glowing skin, smiling softly. "Hello?" she said. He blinked. "Are you an alien?" She laughed gently. "No," she said. "I'm just new, and high above Earth, far beyond satellites and space stations, in a dark place that still remembered war." Red Eye flickered back to life, and watched, and waited. But that's another story. And this one ends with a choice. She had a world to rebuild, and she chose ours.